Nuanez statewide on SWX Montana Television.
I like football!
Now here's your host, Colter Nuanez.
Is this thing on? Do I remember how to do this? I don't even know. It's been a long time. Welcome in. Happy New Year, everybody. It's Nuanez now. The 2022 edition. Can't believe it's 2022. I remember when it was 1999. I was in 7th grade. New Year's. Everybody thought the world was going to end. I think to this day, my mother has a closet at her house she calls the Y2K closet because we had like stores of food in there because we thought it was going to all end. And here we are a whole generation later, and maybe even multiple generations considering what maybe you think of as a generation this day and age. And we're still alive. So Happy New Year, everybody. Hope you had a great holiday. I'm Colter Nuanez coming to you live from the Northwest Motorsports Studio. The first show of the new year after an almost 2-week hiatus. We teased you a little bit. We told you December 18th was going to be our last show for 2021. And then Montana State went out and won themselves a semifinal football game for the first time in almost 40 years. So we had to audible a little bit. Got ourselves back in the saddle for one more show on December 20th, but been off since then. So I had myself a great time away. We'll go through some of the things that I learned. If you have been listening to the show any sort of regularly, you know that connoisseur of information. I really enjoy reading and learning and talking, and that's why this is a great job for me. But I did have a little bit of downtime to actually just sit and watch. I know that a lot of people this day and age like to watch the screen, and I'm not here to judge. It's part of our modern society, and we all do it probably a little more than we should, but I try to mitigate my screen time, particularly because I have to spend so much time on the computer already for a variety of different endeavors, whether it's for here at ESPN Missoula or Skyline Sports or whatever it might be. And, oftentimes in the evenings, while a lot of you guys are watching Netflix series, I'm sitting on my computer writing stories. And that's what I enjoy and all that. But I don't get a lot of time to watch some of the things that are part of the everyday lexicon, all the popular things that people are watching. I generally gravitate away from some of the popular series and things like that, but did dive in and watch 4 different documentaries that I thought were very impactful and gave me some talking points for things that I've been really thinking about and considering as we start a new year. I know this is a time of contemplation and goal setting and renewal and fresh starts and continued momentum and all those sorts of things. So best of luck to you in your new year, no matter what you maybe are diving into or what may lies ahead. And I thought it was very interesting. My brother, Brooks Nuanez, who's my partner at Skyline Sports and a weekly contributor here on this show, he hosted an awesome New Year's Day event. I've never done this before, but he did a little low country boil, which was very fun. I had about a dozen people up there at the house and cooked some. It's like a Southern-style meal where you boil the corn and the potatoes and the shrimp, the sausage, the mussels, and then you drain it, you pour it all on the table, and everybody just kind of eats with their hands and gets some cornbread, and it was very fun. But someone cheers, and I think the cliche for New Year's the last couple years has been, well, we can't wait for the new year because it couldn't be worse than the previous year. I think anybody that followed this show and sort of the arc of what we're trying to do here at ESPN Missoula and Skyline Sports, this last year was very challenging for us, but also incredibly rewarding. And it was interesting because the cheers at the dinner was one where somebody said, hey, here's to brighter times ahead. Here's to better times ahead. And I had to stop and stop the cheers for a second. I said, I don't know, though. I think we should all be very thankful for what we have done, what we have accomplished, and what the year held that was a beautiful thing. And sometimes it's all about perspective. And I was really reflecting and thinking about it over the last couple weeks. And while taking over this show by myself full time and adding new people to the mix, including our producer now, Andrew Houghton, and sort of crafting this vision for what I wanted this program to become, all filled with challenges. But what is life without a good challenge? That's what I want most in life is to be challenged no matter what element of my life it's in. Professionally, personally, romantically, I'm always here for a challenge. And I was also thinking, just for my own personal self, just how blessed and tremendous of a year it was. Last year, when Ryan Tutel, my former partner, left, it was tough because not only is Ryan an incredibly talented radio person, and not only do we have what I thought was an awesome show with great chemistry between the two of us, and it was so easy to work with him, he's also one of my best friends in the whole world. I mean, he's like my brother. And so losing just the day-to-day of talking with him, I mean, even just talking sports is very important and therapeutic to me with him because he has such good perspective, but also is such a great listener. And so I was a little bit out of sorts, and I was a little bit sad when he left. But to have it all come together and then to go to the NCAA tournament and cover it, a single site for the first time in its history, and get to be with my good friend Riley Corcoran and go to 14 games in 4 days and see the city of Indianapolis, the heartland of basketball, and go to some of the epic arenas like Hinkle Fieldhouse and see a guy who I grew up with, and Wayne Tinkle. I grew up with his kids just up the street, and to see him win a couple games there, that was just one monumental moment. But we played a lot of great golf. I competed in a lot of sweet tournaments with some of my friends and some of my media colleagues. We won a fair amount of those deals. And then this football season was nothing short of tremendous. It was one of the best football seasons I've had in my 16 years covering the Big Sky Conference. And now here we're sitting on the first Monday of January, and we're still talking about football. And oh, by the way, we got a Cat Grizz basketball doubleheader rivalry on the horizon as well. So I know that there's a lot of people that have had a lot of challenges over the last couple of years, but what is life without a challenge? It's all about perspective. And I think that I'm very proud of us for all the challenges that we've taken on and overcome and endured. And I have to say, all things considered, because of those challenges and because of the triumphs that accompanied those challenges, for me and for us and for everybody that has been so kind and generous to help along the way, I actually think that 2021 was one of the best years of my life. It was potentially the best year of my adult life, not only because of what I accomplished and acquired, but because we made it through and we got to this point, and we have a new vision now for what we want this to be all about. And so cheers to everybody out there. And no matter what you've gone through or are going through, remember, there's light at the end of the tunnel. And if you have good perspective and express gratitude and you keep a positive attitude, anything is within the realm of possibilities. Ton to get to today, including some of the things I learned over my time away. It is Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. And then, of course, we're also going to talk about the little football game that's going on in Frisco, Texas on Saturday. I guess it's morning here in Montana. Some of you guys are probably going to be sleepy by the time the Bobcats and North Dakota State kick off. 10 a.m. kick local time. I guess it's 10:11 a.m. local time, 11:11 Central time, Texas time. So we're going to talk all through that. This is a bonus. It's a Montana football hour, the first one I think we've ever done the first week of January. So very cool. It's the first time a team from Montana has gone to the FCS National Championship since 2009 when the Grizz advanced for the second year in a row to Chattanooga, Tennessee to take on Villanova. And it's the first time that Montana State has been there since 1984. So I know that there's a lot of stuff to get to here, including the debate of, if you are a Grizz fan, who should you root for on Saturday? And I got asked that question all throughout the break, and it was a fascinating one to think about. But I think that if you can't at least have a little bit of pride in your heart for the run that Montana State's on and the way that they've done it, even if you are a big-time Grizz fan, man, I just think that it's such a good story. We're going to get into just sort of the paramount nature of that story here in the Montana Football Hour here in just a little while. But I do think that one of the goals for 2022 for me and for us here is just to continue to accentuate positivity. And I do think that it's not even about rooting. I think that you can – here's the best way I could say it. If you're a hardcore Grizz fan, I think that there's a world in which you can be completely neutral in this game and or fully root for North Dakota State against the Cats, yet still have a great amount of pride for the state of Montana and the Bobcat football team. Or you can just root for the Cats, because I do think it's good for the Big Sky Conference. And it will help Montana. It'll help the state of Montana and the University of Montana and their football program. I promise you. So we're going to get into all that in the Montana Football Hour. We're going to have just a couple pieces of sound from post-South Dakota State. Over the last several days, as anybody that traveled over the holidays knows, or anybody that's been paying attention knows, the pandemic is still upon us. As I promised you more than a year ago, we're not going to spend any more time than we have to talking about that here. I think that it's obviously something that's impacting everybody's lives. I know that everybody out there certainly is interested in information about it. We are only providing the information that impacts the logistics of sports. We're not here to debate anything that has to do with COVID-19. And that's just my vow, because it's not that I want to ignore it or brush over it or anything. You come here to hear about Montana sports stories and Montana sports interviews and the positives and the things in our society that are worth admiring and steeping adulation upon it and all those different things. So, but one note though, because of some of the spikes in COVID-19, the NCAA did eliminate all in-person media for the FCS championship. That said, we've had a variety of Zooms. I have about 3.5 hours worth of Zoom calls to go through from since Thursday until today. So I'll be sharing all that stuff with you, but just didn't have quite enough time to process that. But we will share a few pieces of sound, one from Troy Anderson and one from Tommy Malott during here at the Montana Football Hour. We're also going to talk just about the craziness of this story, the confluence of events that have led Montana State to reach this point and where it might rank already, as well as ultimately once the season is done following Saturday in terms of Montana sports stories all time. And then from a Big Sky Conference angle, a couple hires that were made in the Big Sky Conference. Idaho State hired Charlie Regal, and Jason Eck was hired as Idaho's head coach. We sort of glossed over those before we took a break, but I want to hash that out just a little bit. And then Friday night, on the eve of the FCS National Championship game, they'll announce the Walter Payton Award and the Buck Buchanan Award. And a couple guys from the state of Montana who played football in the state of Montana are finalists for the Buck Buchanan Award. Montana's Patrick O'Connell and Montana State's Troy Anderson. So we'll talk about which one of those guys maybe has a better chance to win the nationally prestigious award. And then, of course, since it's a Monday, hour number 2, we're going to hear from my guy, Marty Morenweg. It's the Monday afternoon quarterback with Coach Marty. We'll talk a little bit about the ins and outs of college football, especially when it comes to dynasties like the one that Alabama's built under Nick Saban and the one that North Dakota State's built under Craig Bull and then Chris Kleiman and now Matt Entz and the machine that is the NDSU Bison. Is it good or not for college football? We'll talk about that with Coach Marty. And then, of course, we'll talk all the way around the NFL. Everything from the All Madden documentary that sort of took the world by storm just a couple days before the unfortunate passing of an NFL icon when John Madden passed away over the break. And we'll also talk all the way around the NFL playoff picture. 6 of the divisions in the NFL have been clinched. 2 remain unclinched. There's also been an additional 5 playoff spots that have been clinched, but a whole bunch of teams remain alive for playoff spots. So we'll go over what's been and what will be and some of the biggest storylines around the world of the NFL. It is the Montana Football Hour here on Nuanez. Now a little bonus Montana Football Hour. By the way, if you want to listen to the show, stream it. Listen on your mobile devices, your laptop, your tablet, whatever it might be. You can head on over to our station website, 1029ESPN.com. Click on Listen Live. You can stream the show anywhere in the world. You can also stream ESPN Radio 24 hours a day, anywhere you're at. You want to be a part of the show? What was your favorite Christmas gift? What was your favorite New Year's activity? What do you think of Montana State going to the FCS National Championship game? Anything and everything. Welcome for feedback. You can call us or text us, 406-888-1029. That's 888-1029. You're going to want to remember that because about 5:25, we're going to be giving you a Grand Slam package courtesy of Alpine Touch. And but if you want to be involved in the show any way, shape, or form, give us a call, shoot us a text, 406-888-1029. All guests will join us via the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. So if you want to be involved, jump on in. Montana Football Hour presented in part by Stockman Bank and in part by Brett's RV and Marine. Stockman Bank invites you to experience the Stockman difference. As a family-owned community bank with locations throughout Montana, Stockman Bank is committed to enriching the lives of Montanans and helping communities succeed. What that means to you is that your money stays in the local economy, supporting your friends and neighbors. That's more important now than it ever has been. So keep that in mind. Giving back to our neighbors and keeping a fluent and vibrant local economic business climate. Very important for growing and burgeoning towns like Missoula, Bozeman, and all across the Treasure State. So keep Stockman Bank in mind. I was going to tell you some stories, but I waxed poetically too long about, having gratitude and positivity about your life. Sometimes when I say those sort of things, I am trying to inspire you, but I'm also trying to inspire myself. Sometimes, it's a little self-lecture as well. But it is important to remember because it is a fast-paced world where, like my brother always says, we're living in the future right now. So sometimes you got to take a step back and realize all the things that you have accomplished. So save some of my impressions from my documentary watching for the next segment. But let's talk a little bit about sort of the penultimate game that led to the ultimate game for the Montana State Bobcats. MSU hosted South Dakota State in the semifinals of the FCS playoffs a couple weekends ago, and it was a shootout in the first half. It was 17-17 at halftime. South Dakota State did not punt in the first half. Their only turnover came on a turnover on downs on their first possession when they went for it in the red zone. And Troy Anderson came up with an outstanding tackle for loss to force that turnover on downs. But other than that, South Dakota State was up and down the field, and they looked pretty unstoppable on offense. Well, then Freddie Banks, soon to be former Montana State defensive coordinator, made some great adjustments. But more importantly, a whole handful of guys that were playing in their last football game, win, lose, or draw at Bobcat Stadium, play with their hair on fire. Troy Anderson, I thought, played his best game as an inside linebacker at Montana State. It's hard to say it was his best game as a Bobcat because he's had a whole hell of a lot of those. But I thought he played the most fluid and most comfortable-looking game he's played as a true Mike linebacker. I thought Daniel Hardy was absolutely lights out. He had a pair of sacks down the stretch to help seal the thing. Amandre Williams was tremendous. Rylan Ort, kid from Missoula Sentinel, who's stepping in for an injured Ty Okada, was really, really good. Byron Rollins, another kid from Missoula Sentinel, stepping up in place of Chase Benson, was excellent. And on down the line, Sebastian Valdez, Brody Grebe, Simeon Woodard, Jeffrey Manning. There was all sorts of playmakers all over the field. And Montana State pitches a second-half shutout, while on the other side of the ball, the man they're calling Touchdown Tommy, that's anointed by Troy Anderson. I'll keep reminding you, it's not our nickname. I don't think I would call him that if it wasn't for Troy calling him that. But Mr. Anderson calls him Tommy Touchdown, so we'll keep calling him Tommy Touchdown. Tommy Malott, a virtuoso performance, a transcendent performance. 34 carries for 158 yards and a pair of rushing touchdowns. And he also threw for 230 yards and a score as well. His back shoulder to Lance McCutcheon early in the fourth quarter was the final nail in the coffin for the Jackrabbits. And South Dakota State, they fall short once again. And Montana State, they're heading to Frisco, Texas to take on NDSU in the national championship game. Pretty outstanding afternoon in Bozeman. The crowd was lit. The atmosphere was amazing. What did Troy Anderson think about his last game at Bobcat Stadium? The Dillon native, the Buck Buchanan finalist, Mr. All-World, Troy Anderson, following Montana State's 31-17 victory over South Dakota State in the semifinals of the FCS playoffs.
It's awesome. It's definitely what you dream of. He won. You won a couple state championships, didn't you, in high school? No, my bad.
I lost that one.
But the goal is always to be playing at the end of the year and to have your last game be a win. And we've put ourselves in a position to go down to Texas and have an opportunity in that big of a stage. And Montana State hasn't been there since 1984. And for us to be the team that even gets there is huge, but just getting there is not enough for us. We have 3 weeks, get healthy, get to work, and it'll be fun.
All right, see you.
Didn't even play Bobcat Stadium. What a way to go out, right? So, what are your emotions right now? It's supposed to be pretty cool for you.
Yeah, it's awesome. We talk about, it's one of our goals each year to go undefeated at home, and to be able to win your last home game with it being the last one you possibly can play, being the semifinal. Yeah, it means a lot. I mean, we've been working for this, like Tommy said, for 2 years with our season that was taken away from us in 2020. We knew we had the pieces, we had the guys. We brought in a great coaching staff. Yeah, I mean, we knew we could do it, and it was just a matter of going out and executing. And I mean, South Dakota State, they were a really good team and definitely tested us in multiple different ways. But I mean, that kid's leadership, Tommy, I mean, for a freshman to go out there in a semifinal game and to ball like that, and then just, I mean, the offense in general with the receivers making big plays and the O-line blocking. Yeah, it was awesome. And I mean, when our offense is playing like that, it's pretty easy to play defense. So that was a lot of fun. You guys were there today. It was extremely, extremely loud. A couple times on third down, I was looking over to Cal. He's like, 2 yards away or 3 yards away. I was like yelling at him, and I don't think he heard me. So it's a testament to, Bozeman and the state of Montana just showing out. And yeah, we definitely feed off their support.
So you go, Troy Anderson, following his final home game at Bobcat Stadium. It's been so fascinating to cover Troy Anderson because I remember the first time I watched him compete in sports when he was a sophomore in high school at Beaverhead County High School in Dillon, playing in the state basketball championship. That's the thing that people forget. Troy Anderson won multiple state championships in basketball, too. He also was a multiple-time state champion in track. The kid has done nothing but win throughout his entire athletic career. And then he comes to Montana State, and he's anointed as this like mythical creature almost, a guy that Jeff Choate put on a pedestal because of his talent and because of his stalwart nature, his unbelievable football acumen, but also his academic acumen. The guy was a finalist for the William H. Campbell Trophy, which is the academic Heisman for all of Division I football, and he's got an almost perfect GPA, and he's done it about as right as you can do it. But that also comes with so much pressure, such an unbelievable spotlight. And I don't think that Troy Anderson's really ever loved that portion of his legend. But the thing that's been the most cool thing for me, and for, I think, us as a whole in the Montana press corps, has been the emergence of Tommy Mellott through the eyes of Troy Anderson. It's been nothing short of amazing just to watch the changing of the guard, the passing of the torch. And we talked all about, the difficulty of both 2020 and 2021, just as years as a whole for us as a culture and a society. But I was thinking about this yesterday. There's a world in which this passing of the torch, this confluence of events, this Troy Anderson and Tommy Mellott sitting at a post-game press conference in the playoffs in Bozeman, there's a world in which that doesn't happen if we don't have a pandemic. And I'm not wishing that upon anybody, and I'm not saying that I'm glad we had it so that we had that moment, but it is unbelievable. It's a positive part of what came out of all this delay. And if you ask Troy Anderson about himself, it's not even that he's so humble, it's that he thinks it's almost strange, I think, that people think that that they revere him so much for his talents. And by the way, I'm preparing, I should say preparing. I've been writing a story about Troy Anderson and the arc of his career as a Bobcat. I guess I could say I've been writing it since the summer of 2017 before he even stepped on campus. But I have about 40 pages worth of notes and files and quotes. And I've been delaying it, looking for when the time was right to release this thing. I haven't even started writing it. But now they're in the national championship, I'm going to release it sometime between after Saturday and the NFL draft. Because I think Troy Anderson's a legitimate NFL draft prospect. I think everybody thinks Troy Anderson is a legitimate NFL draft prospect. But regardless, Troy Anderson doesn't like talking about himself. He doesn't really like talking about anything that has to do with accomplishments that he has had a part in. He does love talking about Tommy Mellott. He does love talking about his teammates. That's been the coolest part of the last month or so, is looking at the way that some of these older guys respect the spotlight and the leadership role that has been bestowed upon the young kid from Butte, Montana. And I got a chance to catch up with a couple of my buddies from Butte. a couple of whom that competed in athletics at Montana State, actually. And they are just floored with the story that is Touchdown Tommy, the story that is the kid from the Minan City who's leading the Bobcats. We're going to talk about that element of this narrative throughout the week. But this kid, Tommy Millott, has caught lightning in a bottle like almost no athlete I've ever seen. I think that the way that he operates, but also just the fact that he is still so young and naive, I'm not sure he even grasps the magnitude of what he's accomplished. And I also think that because of that, he's almost impervious to the pressure as well. And so one of the main storylines for Montana State coming into this thing is, can they carry that momentum? Can they keep the lightning in a bottle? But they wouldn't be here at this point if it wasn't for the heroics of one Tommy Millott. 34 carries is the most carries I've ever seen a player get in a single game, period. And for that to be your quarterback is just astounding. And I don't know if Tommy Millott would have been playing this whole season if he would even have the ability to endure that sort of punishment. But here we are. And his gritty effort, his ability to control the line of scrimmage as a quarterback who can also throw the ball, it's almost unprecedented. It's almost like something I've never seen before. So here's Tommy Millott leading Montana State to a 31-17 victory over South Dakota State in the semifinals of the FCS playoffs.
Just take us through your mindset coming into this without Isaiah Fonse. Probably knew you were going to carry the ball a bunch of times. So what were you thinking coming into this game?
Yeah, I think it's been the theme of, the past couple of weeks. It's been a lot of adversity we've been fighting through. Nothing new this week. We knew that, our best running back was out. But, we trusted what was going on. We trusted the guys up front. We trusted the coaches. And ultimately, we just were going to go out there and do what we were told. So, it was just being detailed and giving our best.
You got hit, you fumbled, but you got right on it, and then you throw the 64-yard touchdown to Nate Stewart the next play. So just take us through that series.
Yeah, you got to get lucky sometimes, I suppose. So, yeah, I fumbled that one, and, I got to get that taken care of. But luckily, it came right back to me somehow. Stroke of luck, and then, you got to turn around, and Nate made a great play for me.
You talked about how it's every, Montana boy's dream to play at Montana State. I mean, you lead them to their first title game in almost 40 years. I mean, just what's going through your mind right now?
Yeah, I think we're just taking it day to day. That's what we've been doing all year long. Don't get too high, don't get too low. I think years down the road, I'll look back and have a different perspective. But right now, just focused on what we're doing right now. I'm not, not too high, not too low.
It looked like you were getting pretty emotional at the end of that game. Just what was running through your mind in that moment? What are you thinking about?
Yeah, just unbelievably grateful for, the blessings that I've been given. The Lord has blessed me with this opportunity. And, all the guys around me supporting me and loving me. I just couldn't ask for anything more.
Particularly the seniors, how much does that look?
Oh yeah, just before the game, it's that realization that this is the last home game for those guys. Regardless of the outcome, you're either going to Frisco or you're going home. So, it just means the world that we're going to give them an opportunity. That's what they've been working for 5-6 years. These guys, Troy next to me, I couldn't imagine what they've, been through in those 6 years. I'm just blessed that we have the opportunity for one more game.
Tommy Millott, Montana State freshman quarterback, on leading the Bobcats to the 2021 FCS National Championship game. It's the Montana Football Hour, presented by Brett's RV and Marine. Our friends at Brett's RV and Marine, they were closed over the holiday season, but they're back open, so that means you can find savings on over 1,500 new and top-quality pre-owned boats and RVs. You want to schedule an appointment to look at something? You certainly can. Or you can just head on down to the shop here in Missoula. They have 5 locations throughout the Northwest. You can call 833-BRETTS-RV or shop online 24/7 at brettsrv.com. Or if you're in Missoula around western Montana, you can head on over to 4800 Grant Creek Road. Stop in and say hi as well. The number one question I've gotten over the last couple weeks: does Montana State have a chance against North Dakota State? That plus, What does DMX the rapper, Kenny G the saxophonist, Johnny Carson the late night host, and John Madden all have in common? Well, they all taught me something over the long break. All that and more. Keep it right here. ESPN Radio, it's Nuanez Now.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires, introducing the new Backcountry AT2 for a quieter ride with improved performance in wet conditions. Because when it comes to keeping your family safe on the road this winter, the right tires help you feel prepared for anything.
Mom, hey Mom.
Well, almost anything. Plus, save up to $130 when you buy Quatrac tires with financing. Les Schwab Tires. Limited time offer. Terms and conditions apply. See leschwab.com/sale for details.
The world of real estate is always evolving. That's more true now than ever. If you are a longtime Missoulian that is looking to upgrade or downsize, it might be the best time yet to sell. If you're in the position to buy something new, today might be the best time to buy. And no matter what questions you have when it comes to residential or commercial real estate, Mike Nugent and the professionals at Berkshire Hathaway in Missoula have your answers. To find out what Mike can do for you, give him a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
In Italian, tagliere means to cut in two. How fitting, because when you visit Tagliere Deli, Missoula's best sandwiches are so mountainous, you'll certainly need to cut them in half. From the Food Network to the best of Missoula, the public has spoken, and Tagliere Deli in Missoula has the best sandwiches in the entire Garden City. If you haven't tried Tagliere or you're craving a delicious sandwich, either stop into the deli located next to the roundabout at Higgins and Beckwith, or tune in to Nuanez Now every Tuesday for your chance to win. Tagliere Deli and ESPN Missoula providing you free sandwiches every Tuesday.
I got a term for you. You know what the offensive minds in the NFL call what the Grizz run it. They call it casino. They call it full go, cards on the table.
Right.
You're not hiding anything. So the casino defense is it's lit, man. I mean, they get after it, and I don't know why they would get away from it. You know, I think that their best chance to win is to play into their identity, and their identity has been clearly defined.
Brooks Nuanez knows football. You can catch his expert analysis and benefit from his gridiron genius every week on Nuanez Now, 4 to 6 p.m. on ESPN 102.9 Missoula.
I can't believe we have to make this commercial.
It's ridiculous.
You'll think it's ridiculous too. Listen to this.
This commercial is about, well, it's about parents being rude at high school athletic events.
Ridiculous, right?
It gets worse. Studies show more than 75% of new high school officials are quitting because of bad adult behavior.
So now there's a shortage of refs here in Montana. In almost all sports.
No officials means no more games.
Is that what you want for us?
Come on, parents.
It's time to grow up.
Cheer for your team.
Be proud of your children.
But stop being so ridiculous.
And don't make us run another commercial.
Because we will.
This message presented by the Montana High School Association and the Montana Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association, reminding you to always practice good sportsmanship.
It's
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
With the national championship football game on the horizon, the rivalry doubleheader for hoops has been pushed back a day. Happy New Year. I'm Colter Nuanez. Montana State plays in the FCS national title game for the first time since 1984 in Frisco, Texas on Saturday. Because of that historic afternoon, the basketball doubleheader between Montana and Montana State, originally scheduled for Saturday in Bozeman, has been moved to Sunday. The Lady Grizz and the Montana State women, each who got swept this past weekend, will look to bounce back with a Sunday matinee at 1 p.m. The men's teams will square off at 5 p.m. Sunday from Brick Breeden Fieldhouse. The North Dakota State-Montana State National Championship football game kicks off at 10 a.m. from Toyota Stadium in Frisco on Saturday. MSU also rescheduled its annual Bobcat Hall of Fame induction ceremony to be celebrated at a later date. Over the weekend, the Division I women's teams from the Treasure State hit a rough patch. The Lady Grizz started the season 9-2, but they lost 68-61 at Idaho State Thursday and 66-56 at Weber State Saturday. The defending Big Sky champion Bengals of ISU beat Montana State 67-57 on Saturday, 2 days after the Bobcats fell 68-63 at Weber State. The Montana men had an outstanding weekend, blasting Idaho State 78-54 before outlasting Weber State 74-72. Montana State lost 85-75 to Weber Thursday, but bounced back for a 60-40 win over Idaho State on Saturday.
This 102.9 ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
If you know me, you know that I love studying sort of the history and psychology of unique and trend-setting musical artists, particularly like the one you're listening to right now, the Talking Heads. I didn't really know much about the Talking Heads. I wasn't really into the Talking Heads until I moved back to Missoula, started working at Missoula Broadcasting Company, and then I was bestowed with all the wonderful wisdom of Robert Chase, the program director over at the Trail 103.3, which, by the way, anytime you do change the radio dial, you can just go right up to 103.3 and you're going to be happy, I promise. They kill it over there at the Trail. It's my go-to radio station in Missoula besides this one right here, 102.9 ESPN Missoula. But Robert taught me a lot about the Talking Heads. But anybody that's familiar with Talking Heads, you know they're very eccentric, they're very quirky. They're not for everybody. And so interesting, though, because I've been kind of trying to see if there's any other Talking Heads fans out there, like among my friends, my age demographics. So then on New Year's Eve, we'll listen to some music. I'm just hanging out with just a couple friends. And one of my friends, who's been one of my good friends for most of my life, grew up with him, we are brainstorming some songs, and he plays that song, This Must Be the Place by the Talking Heads. And I say, man, this is one of my favorite songs of all time. He said, no way. He said, this is my favorite song of all time. It's number one on my all-time Spotify playlist. I was like, wow. That's crazy that I've known you for like 20 years and we never knew that crossover, albeit I am sort of new to the Talking Heads game. But it was very fun to listen to that on full blast on a New Year's Eve and dance around while making some food and sing the songs and just rejoice what was a great year. Welcome back. It's Nuanez Now. ESPN Radio. Maybe you're watching in SWX Montana Television. I'm Colter Nuanez. We're coming to you from the Northwest Motorsport Studio. Northwest Motorsport, new to Missoula, new to Montana. You can find them here in the Garden City, the corner of Stevens and Mount. You can also check out the largest inventory of trucks in the Pacific Northwest, and they're not kidding. That's real. They have the largest inventory of trucks anywhere in the Pacific Northwest. More than 1,500 trucks online right now. Go to nwmsrocks.com. That's nwmsrocks.com. More on the Montana Football Hour. Very fun and cool and first of its kind, to my knowledge. We sort of launched the Montana Football Hour when I came here back in 2017, and I can say with great confidence we've never had one the first week of January coming off of Christmas break. So pretty cool that the run that Montana State has been on, and it's accentuated by